Hello, guys. Just a minute. I will be just. This is something that I'm working on a little bit. Um, that is okay. Just bear with me. Hey, good morning, guys. Good morning, India. Good evening in California, and sleepy time in East Coast and Canada also joining us. Some people from Canada joining today. It's a kind of exciting day. It's an international broadcast that is. Yes, I'm not Albert Einstein, but I'm pretty good. so, so welcome you all. My name is Raman Annamaraju. I'm the host of the broadcast, Medbix webcast. This is I'm the host. It's a more the model is that I introduce guests. We have a very distinguished guest today from New York, an orthopedic surgeon. Is a Canadian-born orthopedic surgeon, and he will explain us a little bit about, give a brief tour about the Canada and United States healthcare system. So we have a constant debate about this. So you can shed some lights on the healthcare systems on both sides. But thank you for joining. It's a truly without further ado, and I think the thing is that my show, this show, the model is that I introduce guests and then they talk for a few minutes, and then we have a conversation. After that, I do a present. This time, the topic is the most beautiful equation in medicine. That is a Florida State professor's journey. Is a Nobel laureate and his journey. I'm going to talk about that, how he is important to the field of medicine. I'm going to explain that. So all of them are related to healthcare, what I do here. But without a further ado, let me introduce you Dr. Brad White. He's a Canadian. He's Montreal born, where I went to school. In fact, I went to Concordia. He went to McGill. We're right across each other. They are a higher class people up there in McGill, but I'm from Concordia. So, but I was very young at the time, and I didn't experience healthcare. I don't have experience with the healthcare system in Canada, other than physicals, couple of physicals up there. So I don't have much exposure there. But I moved back to the States after that, and then got married here and with the kids and all the stuff. So I don't know much about and been involved the last 30 years in healthcare in this country. So I have a master's in physics, master's in computer science, and then I did a lot of nuclear engineering in Oklahoma. And then I did 30 years. I spent the time in healthcare industry, and then I spent the last 7 years in Silicon Valley. So a broad spectrum of experience I have. But let me bring Dr. Brad White. Is is an amazing. He's going to give us some tour. I saw his frustrations on LinkedIn sometimes about the American system and the Canadian system. Tell us, he's going to expose us what that. Welcome, Dr. Brad White. Thank you, Brad. Okay, welcome to the
Hi,
Brad Big
hi, how are
Podcast.
you?
I'm good.
How
Give
are
us
you?
some background of yours. What is your journey up to that? Where you went to school, where you were born. Just give us a journey up to this point.
Okay, I'm born in Montreal, as you said. I went to school in Montreal, high school, elementary school, etc. Um, I did go to McGill. I have 3 degrees from McGill. I did bachelor of science, master in biochemistry and medicine. I'm going to my 40th medical school class reunion next week. I'm class of 1982, and that's 40 years ago. It shocks me all the time. And I am, as a graduate of McGill University Faculty of Medicine, I'm a medical doctor. They give you an MD-CM, which is Doctor of Medicine, Master of Surgery, actually. And I did do surgical subspecialty. I'm an orthopedic surgeon. I now do consulting. Uh, I've been in the healthcare system. I've worked in both countries, and I've been a patient in both countries. Uh, Medicine. I actually looked this up today. There's some things that surprised me about the history of socialized medicine in Canada. The base of the charter is actually from the Constitution of the Independence of Canada in 1867. Uh, they had a basis for the rights to healthcare in that it's in the Constitution, the Canadian Constitution. And as a resident in Quebec, I remember in 1970, I was 16. I got a Quebec healthcare card. It was Quebec Medicare. Quebec Quebec is one of 10 provinces, and each province has their own healthcare. So there's Ontario Health Insurance Plan, Quebec Medicare. I'm not sure what it is in New Brunswick and Nova Scotia, but Ontario is OHIP, Ontario Health Insurance Plan. There's BC Health, British Columbia. So every province has its own. And basically, the socialization of medicine has been taken an awfully long time in Canada. It started off, they had the foundation of it and the ideas for it with the Constitution of Canada. And they did have some provinces actually declare a provincial medical system. In 1950, Saskatchewan did, Alberta did, British Columbia sometime after. But 1970 was the big day where we all had a medical plan. So I had a Quebec medical card, Quebec Medicare card from the age of 16. I then worked in that system. There's basically it's a good system to work in. The
Yeah.
healthcare is good, the access is good, and the care is good quality. So the thing I want to say about this is that the basis of it is old, and the ideas are old. In the United States, in contrast, the ideas, the foundation of things here is free enterprise, not socialized medicine. It's free enterprise, for profit all the time. That's the biggest difference.
Let,
And
let me let me ask you a question. In the most of the provincial governments, Quebec or Ontario, they have their own healthcare systems. They run from the federal government. Is funds them. Is the funding comes from
yes,
the federal
yes,
government, right?
yeah.
Okay.
So there's Canada Health Act. Uh, Canada Health Act actually is 1984. Uh, it provides the healthcare system is in existence since 1970, 10 different provincial healthcare systems. The agreement at that time was that they would get half their money from the government and the other half would be provincial, and all of it comes from taxes, basically. So, for example, goods and services taxes, taxes on gasoline and alcohol, and there's a lot more taxes in Canada than there are here. And they use it to fund healthcare. Lotteries is a big source of funding for healthcare. So, but anything that you do that's bad for you, if you smoke, you pay a lot of money in taxes because the healthcare system feels that
Yes.
if you're going to do that, you're going to have to pay, right? Because you're going to get sick. So there's 10 different systems in 10 provinces, and the federal government pays half. Every province gets a subsidy, and they have to generate their own budget.
Now, let me switch to your hat to the provide as a provider. If you have a license in Quebec, can you
Uh-huh.
use the license in Alberta or Ontario, or is independent state like American system? Each state has their own licensing board and licensing process in Canada.
Oh, you have to get a license, but it's not difficult to get a license. You can easily move, and you can find a job in British Columbia and go move there. However, each province, Quebec does this. I think they all do this. If you're a newcomer to the system, they're going to tell you where you can practice. So if I'm going to British Columbia and I want to be there as an orthopedic surgeon, and they have thousands of orthopedic surgeons in Vancouver, they might say to me, well, you're going to go to the border with Alaska. We have a little town there, and they need an orthopedic surgeon, and that's where you're going to be. And the incentive is you'll go there and you'll be able to make more money because we're going to pay you more to be there. And in fact, in my training, when I was a resident, I did moonlighting jobs in Quebec, and I did one that was 500 miles straight north of Montreal, so halfway to Hudson's Bay. I worked in an emergency room there once a month. And the reason I went there was because I got 120% of the Quebec Medicare fee schedule, uh, as opposed to 100. If I stayed in Montreal and billed, at that point I could bill as a GP, I would get 70% of the fee schedule because Montreal was considered overserviced. So for the first 5 years of my practice, should I have wanted to be a GP, I would get 70%. But I went far north, and I didn't have a practice because I was a resident, but this was just moonlighting work. But that's the way the system works. They send you where they need people, and they pay you accordingly.
There are not multiple insurances, only one insurance card, right? There's a one insurance card you have that basically covers everything for you, entire system, right? The entire healthcare
Yeah,
system for you.
Quebec Medicare. I have my Quebec Medicare card here somewhere. I don't know where it is. I've always kept it. I've yeah, it's that's all you need for everywhere. In fact, when I lived in Montreal in Quebec, uh, that's the only healthcare there was Quebec Medicare covered everything. It was illegal for any physician to bill you directly. They had to bill the government. The government pays the doctor through it's Régie de l'Assurance Maladie de Québec. RAMQ. So the RAMQ pays. And because you're working for Big Brother, you're working for a big entity. In order to negotiate with them, while I was there was three essentially doctors' unions. There was the Corporation of Specialists. In French, they call them corporation. The generalists, specialists, and interns and residents. And I was involved in strikes where they would go on strike. They would say, okay, you don't want to pay us, we're not going to give you any services. And we would supply essential services, but it's like a big union. You become a union worker as a physician in Canada.
So, what is
It's
surprised
changing now,
me?
though.
So what surprised me, very interesting, all the doctors are private physicians, right? I mean, it's independent physicians. They don't have the salaries from the government. They are all make money through the patients. Basically, they build
No,
the
no,
insurance.
no, no, you cannot bill the patient.
You cannot build
They
the
make,
patients.
no, it's
So,
not
but
capitalized. It's you set up a an office. You As an orthopedic surgeon, you can get by there with a secretary. You don't have to do X-rays. You can send people to an X-ray place. But basically, your overhead is quite low. You bill the government, and the government virtually pays you
yes.
100% of the time. Eventually, sometimes you have to resubmit things. Now it's more streamlined because it's all electronic, but that's who pays you. There's no one else that pays you. The government pays you.
But all the doctors, they don't work for somebody. They work. They're independent. They're independent. So they build the government, but they're
Yeah,
independent, right? They're
yeah,
not like
oh
working
yeah.
for some kind of healthcare system like here.
No, they're not working for any healthcare system, but they're paid by a central body, which is the government,
Correct.
the provincial government
Okay.
in each of the 10 provinces. And in fact, there's two territories in the north of Canada. They have their own healthcare system too.
So if you are suppose if you are from Montreal and if you go to British Columbia as a patient, can you get sick there? Can you is it automatically taken care from the
Oh yeah,
insurance?
yeah. You can
Is
go
all
anywhere. Oh yeah,
there is
yeah,
no other headaches like
yeah.
this. So
Well,
another thing,
there are some headaches. I mean, you would have to, let's say, if I was traveling in British Columbia and I was in the hospital, Quebec Medicare would be billed and have to reimburse BC Health. I mean, but it's easily done. That's not a big problem.
what is the relationship between the primary care doctors and the specialists? You are a specialist, right? Orthopedic surgeon there.
Yeah,
So primary care, they are the gatekeepers, or the patients can come straight to you, or if they come straight, their reimbursement is low. If you go through the primary, you have to do they have to go to the primary care in Canada?
they do actually. And it probably is different. You have to remember that I was there as a patient up till 30 years ago. I've been in New York for 30 years.
Yeah.
I've been looking at up what's in the news now, and what's in the news now in Quebec, at least. I was watching a broadcast. They were talking about, it was a news broadcast, a debate about what can we do to change things, because now there are private clinics. You can go to private clinics, and I think they are somehow reimbursed by the government and Quebec Medicare. But you're kind of, it's like here with HMOs or things like Obamacare, you're basically selling your Medicare or Medicaid to an insurance company. So that's happening to some extent in in Canada too, but still the gatekeeper is the primary care physician, and they're trying to get away from that. That was what this debate was like. Why do we have to have one person as a gatekeeper? So
One of the
things are changing, but still, it's far from here.
yeah.
Here, it's profit, profit, profit. It's not, and if you use the word healthcare must be rationed, resources must be rationed, otherwise we're gonna go bankrupt. Nobody wants to talk about that here. But realistically, every province in Canada has an annual budget. Each hospital has an annual budget. They get their money from the government. If they run out of money, they run out of money. That's their problem. You cannot send everybody who bruises their toe for an MRI. Things like that don't happen in Canada because it's wasteful.
One of the complaints they hear, I hear about it, but it's not really experienced with my family members in Canada. One of the things they complain in this country, the elective procedures are takes a way longer in Canada. Is that true? Is there any that statement is that factual, or is it people
As I
political
said,
thing here?
I don't live there now, but that is one of the issues they talk about and one thing they want to make better. But in all overall, I would say having worked here for 30 years and having lived in Montreal and been a healthcare provider there and a patient there, I had two of my oldest kids are born in Montreal. We got the best obstetrics in the city and never got a bill for a Kleenex. Uh, Here, they wanted a deposit for my third son. It's like
Is
a
a
different kind of thing. So healthcare is a right, and it happens there. Uh, Sometimes it's appropriate to wait for things. Sometimes things do not have to go on your schedule. You have to, as Canadians, I think Canadians are more willing to compromise about things and are not in such a rush. That being said, people do complain about waiting for some things,
yeah.
but healthcare, I think, across the board is more efficient in Canada. There is much less fraud. There's fraud everywhere, but there's much less fraud. There's much less waste. And there's a lot of dangerous healthcare that goes on in the United States, and
Yeah.
there's less of
There
that.
is
It's
yeah.
yeah.
We'll talk about
Overall,
United
it's
States in a minute.
yeah.
The Canada, I wanted to understand Canada a little bit more. So, if you're an orthopedic surgeon, if you are, suppose somebody has a trauma accident, and they come, you're working in a hospital. Do the hospital builds the Canadian the governmental the insurance, or the
Yeah,
governmental insurance, or you both build the government itself in Canada. If you
the hospital bills.
but
You're
then
working in the hospital, you're on staff in the hospital, you bill through the hospital. If you're on staff, generally, you are paid through the hospital. Uh, you might be you probably submit things from your private office as well, but it all goes to Quebec Medicare. So you'll get part of your income through the hospital. The hospital will bill on your behalf, and you will get what you bill for through your office. But it depends on your arrangement. There's all kinds of arrangements like that. But the bottom line, it all comes from RAMQ in Quebec.
I read about Dr. Charles Drew. He went to University of McGill. He went to Montreal.
Uh huh.
Then I read about him as a celebrity doctor in this country. He opened a
Uh,
lot of his name, Charles Gu names. I went to actually Charles Gu Medical School to visit I met the dean and everybody there. It is
uh,
that he talks about fondly about, that said that when he went to Canada from here, that he felt first time in the 1940s, right? This is
yeah,
1940s.
right.
He felt the less racism and very different from the United States. So that's what he felt, and he really excelled in Montreal in the general hospital, and then he did residency there, came back, and he died in an accident, actually, unfortunately, in this country,
Uh-huh,
but he's one of the
uh-huh.
celebrity doctors here. Um, then let us talk about the United States. Now uh, you're an orthopedic surgeon here. What are the challenges you see? I know about orthopedic surgeons. They are the highest paid people in this country. That's what the people think. So tell me,
Well,
what
they
is
they
going on in this hospital?
they
What is
are, yeah, they you have to remember orthopedic surgeons might be the highest paid or one of the highest paid subspecialties. They also pay, as an orthopedic surgeon, I paid approximately $200,000 a year in malpractice insurance
yes,
because that's another big problem in this country. That's
yeah,
another big difference in Canada. If somebody falls down and breaks their foot, or breaks their knee or breaks whatever, they don't look for someone to sue. Whereas here, it tends to happen.
yes.
So litigation is crazy here.
The,
Attitudes in a lot of things are different between Canada and the United States. I was constantly surprised, even by language. People a lot of times didn't understand what I was saying, and I grew up, 400 miles away from where I am, but still, and we speak the same language, but it's very different culturally.
yeah,
Expectations are different. So
it is.
Canadians are more laid back, I think.
Laid back.
Yeah.
The legal system is a complicated so much, particularly in orthopedic side. There's a lot of lawyers involved. There's a lot of legal malpractice, all kinds of insurances involved. It is just one of the nightmares probably you are
Oh
facing
yeah.
here.
But to get back to orthopedic surgeons making a lot of money, a lot of time, the ones that make the most money are not necessarily doing what's good for anybody but them. There are a lot of orthopedic surgeons. There's a lot of people in many specialties in this country that do many unnecessary testing, many unnecessary surgeries. It's basically free enterprise. You have to have a niche, you have to have a reputation, you have to have, it's supply and demand. In order to make money, you have to be in the system. And the system, in a lot of ways, is really corrupt at points.
It is the healthcare system is in chaotic condition. It's just
Oh yeah.
unbelievably out of control. Headless chicken
Oh yeah.
is not even a that
and
is
it's
worse
and
than
it's
headless
and it's
chicken.
hard to figure out what to do about it. Like to talk about having socialized medicine in this country is it's something that I don't know how they would do it. And in reading about how it happened in Canada, I realized it didn't just happen all of a sudden in 1970. There were things happening uh, after World War One. They established some things, and it's based in the Constitution from 60 years before that. Uh, and it started in the 40s and the 50s, and there was healthcare systems, provincial healthcare systems starting in the 50s. Saskatchewan was the first one.
Brad, one of the advantages, that's one of the complaints is that the United States is the center of innovation. They come up with all the new drugs, new technologies like a new MRIs. You have a 7.0 MRI, you have a 3.5 MRI, you have this kind of a new technologies. America is the center of innovation. Canada carries on the innovations that America invested on. That is one of the complaints. How legitimate that complaint is.
Healthcare, good healthcare does not mean you have to have an MRI in every street corner. Good healthcare is not machines. Uh, Good healthcare depends on having access of everyone to healthcare and having everyone be educated in what is healthcare. Healthcare begins with the individual. Healthcare begins with your personal responsibility for healthcare. And reform of healthcare in this country will not happen until the population and the government is educated as to what healthcare is, because they have no idea. And healthcare is not machines. Healthcare is not MRIs. Healthcare is not technology.
You should be in the federal government or New York State policy department. You should be advising them. It is just it is a ridiculous what the healthcare became this country with all the investment they have. $5 trillion almost. We are coming to close to $5 trillion. Still, people suffer, and it is
Oh yeah.
really you're getting the right care or not is still is a mess up there.
Oh, this country is an absolute mess, and they keep wondering why do we have less good longevity, higher infant mortality, et cetera, et cetera. All the population parameters in the United States are equal to third world countries, not civilized countries. If you look at anywhere in Europe, they're better than us, and Canada too. All their parameters are better than us because they apply healthcare appropriately. They don't waste things. They ration it because it should be rationed and dealt out to the population appropriately. And again, it starts with personal responsibility. Otherwise, we're going to go bankrupt. This country, the end of this country, I think, will be
Yeah.
healthcare, because there's not going to be enough money to pay for getting everything you want all the time and having a business niche, anything that flies, anything that goes, anything that's quasi legal that you can make fly in a multi specialty clinic or in an ASC or whatever you're doing will fly. It's business. And
You know,
business is not always good for healthcare.
it it is a good, actually, in fact, it is in a sense that competition is good, but the competition in the United States is carved out. It is not a true competition. It is basically everybody is drawing their own maps. Hey, this is this healthcare system we belong to. For example, in Alabama, only one healthcare system, Blue Cross Blue Shield, runs the entire healthcare Alabama state. So they
Right.
won't let you anybody else. So how can you get a competitive say things? You have to be a truly entrepreneurship. They don't even allow. They call the entrepreneurship. Healthcare is a free. It's a free country. Is not a free enterprise at all. It is a far from free market system, far from free enterprise system. You put the regulations and allow the enterprise, free enterprise and free market system allow to compete each other for the right care. That is still missing. That is one of the areas I suggest is a polymath of Plato's idea. Plato says
Uh,
that there is a two kind of worlds. One world is a idealistic world. Other world is objects like doctors, nurses in healthcare. If you apply to the healthcare, nurses, doctors, hospitals are on one side, and the taking care of sick, understanding the pain, all of them one side. These people have to serve them rather than there is should not dictate how should be the pain, how the suffering should be. These are we are doing other way around. So
right.
these doctors and hospitals and healthcare systems should serve the patient centric patients rather than we are doing what they're doing is that what the care should be. That is a very unfortunate, and it is a, as you said that I feel pain. I just this country is such a when I came to this country and like you, I saw the glory of this country, and then healthcare taking it down to the step by step into the
Right.
descending into the third level country. It's sad. It is absolutely
It
horrific,
is. It is.
and yeah, it's we have to people have to be. That's why this program is that we can educate some people. People get something that's good ideas. That's one of the reason I do that. Let me so that is one of the reason I think I do presentations is what are the greatest things about the science and medicine, the true innovators of science and medicine. I present them from history. So that's I'm going to do that right now. So I'm come back and I'll ask you a question about what are the things you think besides, just give me a specific in orthopedic field. What are the things you like to see some changes in orthopedic side? When I get back, I'll ask you stay on the line,
Okay.
and I'm going to
Sure.
present my things there. Okay, so you'll be
Sure.
watching along with me. Um, so this is Dr. Thank you, Dr. Brad White. Is a wonderful insights inside. I'm going to talk about a little bit about what is this new thing. This is the most beautiful equation in medicine on tombstone. That is on tombstone right now. I will explain you why it is on tombstone. So it is this is when the think about this healthcare came from the beautiful equation of medicine came from beginning of the universe. When the universe was born, there was equal amounts of universe was born is all photons, nothing else. They're all energy. So that energy became mass according to the Einstein's equal to mc square, and becomes equal amount of matter and antimatter. It's equal amount it produced. So and when they come together, they annihilate again. So they keep on joining together and keep producing the energy, keep on joining and then producing energy. There's nothing left. Always is a fluctuating that between the energy itself is changing. That's the beginning of the universe. It started it. That is equal to mc square. It's called matter and antimatter is exactly opposite of each other. That's what they were born. Equal amounts were born in the beginning, and they came out at the beginning of the universe. But after that, it's like what is antimatter? It's like an evil twin. You don't want to see, you don't want to, you can see them, but you don't want to meet them. Because if you meet them, it is a distraction. It's a huge energy. It annihilates all of them. We will all die. So this is like an evil twin of yours. Matter and antimatter is produced equal amounts, supposed to produce equal amounts of matter and antimatter in the universe. But if you never want to meet them, because that is the end of the world or the end of the universe, in fact. So, so what is the antimatter? It is a suppose take a hydrogen atom. It is proton is a positively charged particle in the center, in the heavy particle that is, and the electron is goes. That's a picture actually. It doesn't go around, but it's a probability wave. I don't want to talk into too much quantum physics here, but the proton is in the middle and the electron going around. So that is the picture of the atom, hydrogen atom, and the antimatter is other way around. The antimatter is that the anti-proton is proton is a negatively charged and the electron is a positively charged. They call positron, and the anti-proton they call. So antimatter has exactly same thing, same mass, everything same, except the charges are different, exactly opposite of each other. That is the antimatter. So if you want to meet, antimatter, you can experience, our bananas emit the one positron every 75 minutes. It won't go too far because it immediately interacts with the inside, so you can see outside. Same thing, we emit almost 200 positrons. That's also per hour, but they're also because of the potassium 40 is the radioisotope where we emit the positrons, in fact. But the antimatter you can produce is actually the most expensive thing in the world. 1 gram of antimatter costs about $65 trillion. We're not even that close. CERN produces a very minute quantities of antimatter they produce. In the CERN means is a huge accelerator in the Sweden and France. It goes around in the Swiss Alps. That is the Large Hadron Collider. The big accelerator produces this radio this antimatter. They kept it almost 1 year. It's a record break. They kept it through the magnets. If the antimatter interacts with any one of even a wall of anything, it will disappear. So they kept it for a whole year, almost hanging in the space. It's amazing. So this is there is a Paul Adrian Dirac is an English British physicist. He was born in 1902, and his father he was a ship captain where Crimea, where Florence Nightingale was working. Okay, so his father knows Florence Nightingale, in fact. So he was inspired by medicine. He was kind of a physicist. So, but he loved that his father was a captain of he was learning from the Florence Nightingale. In fact, a lot of things is so. So uh, he was from England. Then he went to school in England. He completely finished his. So he came up with the 1929. He came up with a brilliant equation. That equation is, I don't want to go into the too much into details of the equation, but it is special theory of relativity, Einstein's equations, and then quantum physics. They need to correlate. They are not working together. So he came up with the solution, but it has two solutions that came out. One is positive. One is two kinds of solutions for the equation. So he found out that what are the two solutions for this equation is the that is he kept it for 3 years. What is this equation is giving a two answers, two things. One is it is saying that there exists a negative electron, positive electron, a positron exists. So he was very shy, but eventually he published it. He was brave enough to publish it. He thought everybody's going to make a fun of him. They made fun of him in the beginning, and he published it. And then he said that there is a positron, there is actually opposite of electron exists in the universe. They did not know at that time. After 3 years from there, April 26th, 1932, in the Caltech, they found out Carl Anderson. They found out in the chamber and the cosmic rays. They found the actual existence of the positron and electron together. So one is going opposite direction. They're repelling each other. They're going opposite direction. That is what you found out. The first validation came from in the 1932. The validation came from the Caltech. Carl Anderson is they discovered the positron. So, what is a positron? This they can explain this one through MC mathematically inspired MC Escher paintings. I don't know whether you can see. It's very difficult. It took me a long time for me. There is the left side. There is a black fish and a white fish. Either if you see one fish, you don't see other one. That you may see black fish, you don't see white fish. If you see the white fish, you don't see the black fish. That's a very little bit of eye catching. You have to do that. You have to do practicing, and when you get a chance, practice it. You have both fishes that are existing there. If you they're just exactly equal amounts. But what he did was, in the second picture, you changed the colors. You put the dark color on the white fish and the black color on the white fish and the white color on the black fish. He changed the colors. That is called that is that the entire not only but equal amounts of fish, but even though equal amounts of fish, it's a different picture. It became a different picture. So that's what is exactly what they found out. In Even though there are equal amounts of a matter and antimatter, there is a one small change. Actually, what the change was, they say in the both their pictures inside, is the eyes look different. The fish eyes change a little bit. That made the difference in the matter and antimatter world. A small change caused us that we are because that we existed. Our universe existed because there's a small change in the anomaly that came out. So that's why we came. Thanks for that small. That's called a symmetry CP violation, charge and parity violation. They call. So subject and object in the mirror became a separate people. It's a very analogy I'm giving you. They became a two separate people. With a small change, it became a two separate people. That's what we are. So the antimatter gone someplace else. We don't know. We never want to see them. But there are people who believe there are anti of you, anti of your personality, anti of you. They're in a antimatter world, but we don't know. So you won the Nobel Prize in 1933. You won the Paul Dirac won the Nobel Prize. Paul Edwin Dirac. He created equation between the Albert Einstein and Schrodinger quantum physics, and the correlation between the quantum physics and the Schrodinger wave equation. He gave a solution for the equation was monumental in the physics world. That is a monumental equation. That is one of the well respected in the. It's a very well respected physicist. He was equivalent to. They were named. He almost is equal to Albert Einstein and Schrodinger of the gods of the quantum physics, quantum world. But let us switch to the healthcare, and I will tell you how the relationship with the healthcare with that positron. Cancer is the number one enemy. You know that 7.5% of the cancers. 39% of the people uh, get automatically cancer. You know that I didn't know that. 40% of the people almost get cancer in their lifetime. So we need to be all to be ready. 15 million people survived the cancer. 42% of the people can avoid, as Dr. Brad White is talking about, that if you healthcare is a problem, you can be avoidable. 42% of the cancers can be avoidable. That's what that Brad was talking about it. There is 100 plus cancers are there in the types of cancers are there in this on this planet. So there's a cancer is a number one enemy. It's still unfathomable things it does. That's damage to the human body. So, what is the gold standard to detect a cancer? Is a positron emission tomography. That's where Polderak comes. His equation comes is positron. That's a positively charged electron. Is the one they developed a machine. It's called a positron emission tomography. I tell you a little bit about it more in detail. But it's a detecting the cancer that is a gold standard. Not only detecting cancer, that is a prognosis of if the tumor is growing or going less or shrinking. That's the only way you can find out through positron PET scan. There's a shortcut. It's called PET scanner. So they give how do they do it? They give a radioactive sugar. It's basically radioactive sugar is basically glucose. They I will explain to you a little bit in a minute. The glucose they give a radioactive sugar. They inject in the intravenously, and then the injection, and then the that there's a content. It's called contrast, and it goes into the body. What the body thinks is sugar, but it is attached to radio tracer. It is a radioactive tracer inside. So all the Tom fans, there is a chip inside. There is a chip. That is a chip. but but the chip is not harmful at all. Yeah. So it's called radio source generator. It's actually you generate this radio source is a radioactive source through cyclotron, a generator. It's basically a huge sci-fi kind of equipment that is there. So there are not too many. It's not a MRI center. There is not every corner. You cannot put it in every corner of the cyclotrons. Okay, it is only in the United States is 150 cyclotrons in the United States. China is 130. I didn't check Canada. I will ask you, Dr. Redwhite, if he knows about it. But there are not that many in Canada. Also, Canada has a nuclear power. My brother was a nuclear engineer. My late brother was a nuclear engineer. They're always advanced in the nuclear side. So they may have a lot of cyclotrons. I'm not sure. But India has a very few, 19 of them. It's just when compared to the population, the cyclotron is a very less in India. That's a big challenge for the cancer detection. So that is a wealth of that is you can tell you this the power of the some of the inventions they do. But what is a radioactive sugar? Radioactive tracer is a basically glucose, the tag of fluorine, atomic fluorine, 18 fluorine, they attach to the glucose. So body thinks it's a glucose. They're two chemically analogous, analogous. That means they're same. Chemically, they are same. Body thinks FDG, which is the right side, which has a tracer, which has attached a tracer on the right side, is exactly as a glucose. So body doesn't know the difference. It consumes. So the cancers, the tumors consume more sugar, that more glucose, that it goes there. Then you see the activation. You see a lot more action there. So it's a radio transmitter. That's where you get the um, things. Is a fluorodeoxyglucose. It's called FDG. It's a basically radioactive sugar. It's a radioactive tracer attached to the glucose. But you cannot do on the you cannot do from the in the garage. You have to have a cyclotron for that. Then what they do is they take to the hot lab, they mix it there, they store, prepare, deliver. So it is highly regulated because it is one of the, one of the harmful to health, and a lot of the people who operate this one has to follow such serious rules, and a highly regulated industry this is. So the radioactive isotopes are not, you cannot get. That is the right side that you see is actually 18 wheel mobile unit. So I used to take them to different places. Actually, there's a there's a PET scanner, positron emission tomography scanner. So physics of the proton is what it is, that when you take this glucose inside this FDG is a radioisotope. What is the function of the radioisotope? Is a radioisotope element, this particular one emits the positron. That's where Paul Adrien Dirac comes in the picture. He gave the equations for the positron, how they work, what they do. The equations for the positron came from Paul Dirac. But what once it comes out, the immediately it interacts with the cells in our body, the electrons in our cells. The cells are made up of atoms. Atoms have protons and electrons. So the positron is a positively charged electron. It is immediately interacts with the electron in the atom and immediately produces a high energy gamma rays. So it is a high energy antimatter. This antimatter produces high energy gamma rays. In the tumor, they accumulate all the glucose accumulated, this radio tracer accumulates immediately. So that's where you get immediately a huge burst of energy from there, hitting this hitting this. So what is the gamma rays? Gamma rays are on the right side, high energy. All the energy is basically electromagnetic spectrum. If you see that, is all based on the photons, how fast they move. If they move, and if we are in the middle, somewhere in the visible spectrum, so that things what we can see, the photon wavelength, it depends on the wavelength, and the gamma ray radiation, where the wavelength is very short, and the infrared is a heat, it is a wave, the microwave background, and all of them are longer wavelengths. So it is actually energy is the way the photon, the particle, the photon moves around, electromagnetic radiation. So it depends on the how fast it moves. So the gamma rays are the highest energy particles. The gamma rays, they shoot because of the physics of the nuclear. There's a Newtonian physics, quantum physics combined with the Newtonian physics. It has to conserve the angular momentum. So the linear momentum it has to conserve. So what it does is it produces the two photons, equal amounts. It goes and hits the detectors in the PET scan. It hits the same time. If it hits a different time, you know exactly where so they can detect the mathematics of it. Those are the 51,000 detectors are there. The moment it hits that, it immediately converts into the photo visible spectrum, and you can see the images. That's how they collect the images. So this is a basically the physics of the positron. Positron creates a gamma rays, two gamma rays, and hits the detectors and produces. That's from there they compute the image, how they looks like image. Depends on the intensity that arrive. So the cancer of the patient is a 40-year-old woman. You see that I don't know. I'm not a doctor, but please, bear with me that I am throwing some stuff here. That's the highly. These are the temporal resolution in the PET scanner is much higher. Temporal means it is actually functional imaging. You can see the actual movie. You can record the movie on the PET scan. The actual movie, you can see it. You can see the functional movie there. You can see that some of these images in that one, they can see the accumulation of some serious cancers, tumors up there in your body. So the dark spots are where the glucose is spent. That's not a problem, but where the dark spots are, where in the wrong places, that's where the bigger the problem is. So it's naturally our brains consume a lot more glucose. That's why you see a lot of dark on the top, and then in the urine is there's a lot of these things we pass it out. So that's why it has a lot of dark things. But any other place you have to be suspicious things. So to create the structural resolution, what they do is they add because they don't know exactly. They know the functional side. They use a CT scanner to exactly the location to measure this. CT scanner used to exact location to find the location. So the use of PET CT is tells you exactly where the cancer is, where the tumor is. That's where the growth is, that you can pinpoint. So that you combine PET CT together. So what is, a lot of people ask me all the times, what is the difference between PET CT versus SPECT? Is a PET is a positron emission tomography. The second one is SPECT is single photon emission computed tomography. SPECT is one photon goes there. It's a very low level energy photon. It is gamma rays. It produces gamma rays, but very low level. It doesn't produce the high level energy. So it is the resolution is extremely low. The structural, the location is also very difficult. So the SPECT is not a highly, it's very difficult to, it gives you some basic idea, but it is a PET is a much way better, the resolution wise, temporal, and PET CD really outright the benefits of the SPECT is cheaper. The contrast or half life of a contrast is much higher in the SPECT agents. For example, the half life of FDG is 2 hours. Okay, half life means the amount of you take a 1 gram of um, atoms, you take it, it is the weight, 1 gram of FDG, you take it, in 2 hours it becomes half of it. In the other 2 hours it becomes half of it. It doesn't disappear the rest of the half. It keep on dividing half and half and half all the times. That's the kind of half life they call. So the half life of the SPECT contrasts are longer. So that's why they use the SPECT. Is a cheaper it's cheaper for a lot of people. That's why the contrast materials are half life. You don't need a cyclotron, big cyclotron around you to store these one. They can be stored a long time. That's the reason people use SPECT. But PET is way better in the cancer detection and prognosis. So there's a breast cancer. You can see PET CT can give a beautiful images that can tell you beautiful in the sense it's the wrong way, but it gives you for the radiologists, they can see that image is much clear. So the doctors also, for cardiologists also do the PET CT scan. It's called they use a different kind of a contrast. They use a rubidium 82. The rubidium that is a cyclotron, actually the small one. I saw that. It's just a size of a shoe, size of a just a small refrigerator, but it costs $30,000 a month. It's a cyclotron inside. It makes the rubidium radioisotope actually. So the reason they do that, sodium and potassium channels are very half-life is very small, like it's seconds. So they want to see where is the heart viability, where is the heart muscles are dead. They want to see the much more clear, so they get the clear picture. So the cardiologists prefer PET CT. People who had a heart attack, congestive heart failure, you can see much more clear with the PET CT scan. So the hearing, there's another one. There's a big use for the PET CT nowadays. Alzheimer's, their hearing loss and dementia. That's a big Medicare actually sponsored the study. They spent $100 billion on it so far. So we don't. The reason they kind of hesitating to approve it in the widespread, because they don't have the drugs. They don't know how to cure it. So recently they announced a drug that they say 20% effective. So that still is a very mysterious. The Alzheimer's is what is causing, what is not causing. It is still a long way to go to understand the Alzheimer's. Sorry, 100 million to spend. So there is a PET CT is coming, PET MRI. There is no radiation PET MRI, but for certain pathologies, PET MRI is better. That's what they say. Still at the research, that's what they're doing right now. This is a new kind of, my friend, actually not friend, I know her, I've been following her. I chatted a couple of times with her, but her name is Mary Lou Jepson from Silicon Valley. I lived in Silicon Valley. I can tell you, she's producing the reason I was talking about MRI, eventually PET MRI is going to be basically a headband. She created a headband, almost is a headband that does the same equal to MRI quality images comes out. Is imaging. So all the data points, right, is all data. So the she creating a headband that produces the same kind of images as the MRI producing it. So it's a open water. It's called. Her name is Mary Lou Gibson. She's a rock star of science. She's from MIT, and she's a big star in Silicon Valley. But there is a new kind of things are coming up in the future. Complete body PET scanner is coming up. It is a complete body scanner. It takes 30, like 1 minute. You can check all the tumors, everything inside in the body in 30 seconds, less than a minute. It is on the UCLS Davis. Is a very few places are there. Siemens is coming up with the new GE and Siemens. They're coming up with their own whole body PET scanner, so they can see not only structural and functional, any abnormal growths are there, you can catch them. One of the challenges is that we see is the pancreatic cancer. Pancreatic cancer is hard to detect, so that's one area that could help us in the whole body PET CT scanner. So Siemens HRT, another one, they're coming up with the whole body scanner. So there's a lot of companies. So without the equations of the Paul Dirac, his 1932 Solvay conference, he proposed this beautiful equation. That equation gave birth to the positron. Think about that. Nobody gave. He's just sitting down in front of a oil lamp, or 1930s they have electricity, probably beginning of the electricity. He wrote these equations. He scribbled equations that gave the birth to the positron, the behavior of the positrons. That is the Paul Dirac did that. He was the unsung hero of the medicine behind it. A lot of oncologists don't know how great he was. So he was he was in a he was he died in Florida. He came to Florida State University last 10 years. He was in the state of Tallahassee, Florida. He got offers from Stanford and Princeton. He didn't take it. His daughter was in Tallahassee, so he became a professor in the physics department at the Tallahassee, Florida State University in Tallahassee, and he died there. Actually, last 10 years he spent there in Tallahassee. There was a tombstone. The equation was given in the tombstone. He was a bust in the Florida State, and he's in England where he was born. That there was a next to the Isaac Newton. A tombstone was mounted, and his equation was written on the tombstone. So that equation went on his scribbling of the equations went on to tombstone, and it became a cornerstone for the PET CT scanners. So he died in 1984. Nobody knows his final lecture he gave in Florida State University. So think about that. The people we are praying at demigods, but we have a lot of. We have to really. These are the people who are unsung heroes of the science, and they contributed to medicine so much. That's the reason I want you to. You know give a pay attention to this kind of a science, the people who really contributed, and then we need to be grateful for them. And I'm going to bring Dr. Brad White back to asking. So there is a lot of shirts, and what I did was I have a Paul Dirac shirt in the Amazon. You can buy it. That is on my website, dailywearformedicine.com. You can buy the Paul Dirac t-shirt. You can buy it. So, but there is a one quick, just a 1 second. Give me 1 second. There was a little problem there. Okay. So let me bring Dr. Brad White to the table, and then we'll talk about it a little bit. Dr. Brad White. So, how do you like the presentation? It's a kind of a scientific. They gave
Very
us.
nice. Very nice. I never heard of Paul Dirac before.
Yeah, he was a great scientist. Thank you for.
Yeah.
Doctors should. Medicine doctors are all study very hard and then go to MCATs and residency program, brutal residency program. But there are scientists who also did contribute to the greatest things in this world. So MRI, for example, if there's a PET CT scan, Japan is you don't use an orthopedic surgery, but they use a lot of cancer detection, all over the country.
Right.
My brother used to work in a nuclear engineering, nuclear reactor in Tokamak, in northern Quebec.
Uh-huh.
He was going there. He was a nuclear fusion reactor. Is a different than nuclear fission is different than fusion is a two
Right.
the hydrogen
Right.
atom. So Canada was way advanced in the nuclear reactor side. So he was installing a nuclear reactors for from Canada. He went to Romania and South Korea, and he passed away recently, unfortunately, in India. But he installed, he did. He was nuclear Canadian nuclear reactors. He was installing in Canada and sorry, South Korea. He spent 10 years
Right.
there, and then in the Romania. But let me ask you, let's go back to your orthopedic side of it. What are the things, challenges you have now as a specific to orthopedic surgeons? What are the things you see you can do better? What are the things you suggest to orthopedic side in the United States?
Uh, I would I would go in the other direction, and we've been talking about technology. Uh, Unfortunately, what's happening in medical uh, residencies, orthopedic residencies, any residencies these days, is that uh, we skip steps in terms of dealing with patients and jumping to the MRI and depending on the MRI to make a diagnosis and forgetting to listen to the patient. Uh, as you're listening, you're forming a hypothesis as to what's wrong with them. You're After you're listening, you're examining, and then you're thinking about it and coming to a hypothesis as to what is going on, and then you order the test. Unfortunately, in training these days, they seem to be going directly to the test and then jumping from the test, skipping the examination, and going to do something about what they see on the test rather than what they see in the patient because the patient gets lost in the shuffle. So that's the biggest thing I see. Technology is overwhelming uh, medical care. There's too much of it.
Too much of it.
You
No,
need some of it, but you can't depend on it all the
my
time.
yeah. My father is a doctor. He's a teacher and a doctor in a small village. I tell you, he did a great job. He was reading all the medical journals and everything, and he was one of the he can teach nowadays MDs. He was in a small village. I think brains of the doctor has to be. I'm a patient. I'm a physician advocate. Your
Right,
patient advocates. I'm a physician advocacy because there is an my son gave me best way of describing the role of a physician. A lot of people say evidence-based in medicine we need MRI, but my son told me that very interesting. You have a data coming in from a if you have a painter, if you have a colors, a paint you have a lot of colors there, orange, red, green, blue, and yellow. You can draw a picture. You can paint a picture, but it is not a Mona Lisa, you're not a Da Vinci. So you need to be. What he says that all the colors are like a data points, and then you
right,
need a really good painter or a good doctor to give the good picture of the health. So as
right.
your argument is, you create the hypothesis, you create the picture of the health for patients. That
Well,
is the best
the
way to do that.
the hypothesis, your differential diagnosis, creates a context. You need to have a context in everything you're doing in medicine. You cannot just go ahead and skip steps, order tests, and base your treatment on the tests only. The tests might mean nothing without a context in terms of a hypothesis and an examination that goes along with it. Then you look at the test. I mean, throughout my career, I've had people coming for second opinions to me. Um, they will bring in their MRI scan and say, "Look, they tell me I need surgery on this. Look at my scan." And I say, "Okay, we're not going to look at the scan yet. We're going to look at you. because I don't operate on MRIs. I operate on people, and there has to be something there first before I'm even going to order an MRI. So the MRI might be meaningless. So the context is the important thing.
Dr. White, thank you so much. It is truly an honor to talk with you. It is really enjoyable, and you give a excellent tour of all the differences and what is to be a doctor and what is to be two different countries in the neighboring
Oh
countries.
yeah.
How they differ from each other. You gave a very good tour of that. It's a truly an honor for us.
Well,
Thank
thank
you
you.
for joining us. You
Thank
could
you for
stay if you want
having
to
me.
stay. Yeah, thank you for joining. Stay on the line, and if I can talk with you after the broadcast, once stay on the line. So let
Okay.
me, yeah, thank you all joining. Good night.
We are retelling their stories through our patented designs that can be worn on scrubs, t-shirts, printed on conference bags, and endless other promotional materials. Daily Wear for Medicine is the first ever of its kind to create curiosity in medicine through visual art. We at MedBricks are celebrating unsung heroes of the past who made enormous contributions to the field of medicine through our unique campaign called Daily Wear for Medicine. You can wear it, carry it, and give it.